That's me as a pony, people. I am a brony. Hey everyone, this is your me of the East, and to all my Tumblr viewers, this is pretty much what I look like. And to all my YouTube viewers, if you saw the pony, that means I'm a brony. Big shocker, I know. But the reason I bring this up is because I wanted to do a little something, just a little fun for the month of September. And I know I'm doing this video in the middle of August, or at the end of August. So I've been wanting to do something for September, do a couple of series of videos, of course all unscripted, but slightly edited to save for time and all that. But I've been a little inspired to do something that a big YouTuber, some of you may have known as Masako X from Dragon Ball Z Abridged fame. He does a couple discussion videos on his channel that are what-if scenarios. And to be honest, I am a huge fan of what-if scenarios, alternate timelines, alternate dimensions, yeah, somewhere in that same category. And I've been thinking to myself, well, I want to do something similar like that, like come up with ideas of how or what could happen if one small event was changed. But then I got thinking, you know, I don't see anybody doing these type of videos for My Little Pony. I even looked around on YouTube and I couldn't find any like what if scenarios happening. Most I can find them are on fanfiction. So it makes me wonder, well, why don't I give it a shot? Of course I'm just doing this for all funs and giggles here, but I've just been wanting to try and do a bit of a discussion that makes me think, well, I want to see what other people think of these scenarios and just get the ball rolling a bit. So I decided to come up with 4 topics for the entire month of September that, well, just more or less like what would happen if these events change the series. And I'm going to try and think of these like in terms of the show. There will be one topic that I will cover that's from the comics, but we'll get to that when I get to that point, or if I decide to continue. But for this, the first scenario I will be talking about is a pretty doozy one. Simply put, what if Rarity was a princess? That makes you wonder, wait, what? Why Rarity of all the ponies? Why not the rest of the main 6? And what makes you think of this topic in general? Well, it got me thinking back from an old fanfic I read back a few years ago. I'll even leave a link to that specific fanfiction in the description below, because it's kind of got my head thinking a bit like, well, yeah, I don't know how this could happen specifically, but in the closest scenario I could think of, yeah, this could potentially happen, if not Twilight, maybe Rarity. I mean, she's the only magical user in the group. And yeah, Rarity has been known to show some magical competency aside from Twilight. I mean, other than being the other alicorn. So it makes me think, you know, yeah, I can go through with it. What would have happened if the series did change a bit if Rarity was the one that became the alicorn instead of Twilight? So just to save up on time and to go through each episode individually, I'll be going through the entirety of season 4 to start off. But I'll also be like going through a bit of magical mystery cure to see how we got to that event. So I will also be using that fanfic I used as an example to bring up how this could happen and just a few events that I've brought onto it. So yeah, I'll use parts of the fanfic for an example of how this happens and what we will go from the rest from there. Okay? So with that said, I will go down memory lane to the Season 3 finale, Magical Mystery Cure. So all of us know how Magical Mystery Cure went. Twilight became a princess, her friends lived happily ever after with their lives back to normal, and everything was going to be just alright, as Twilight put it at the end and beginning of that episode. So that makes me wonder, okay, now what would happen if we replaced Twilight with Rarity? So we know how this episode went out. Twilight caused her friend's cutie marks to be switched because of the spell from Starlight the Bearded's journal. She fixes the problem, and then she finishes the spell, thus making her an alicorn and a princess by episode's end. So now what if we switch those events with Rarity being the one who cast a spell instead? So we all know how the episode pretty much went by just in sequential order, but let's just do this a little differently, shall we? So instead of Twilight being all alone at night, Rarity decides to just pop in and visit her for one reason or another. So then she sees Twilight get the package from Celestia, of course during one of Spike's 8-hour bubble baths, which I'm surprised he still has an 8-hour bubble bath. And then Twilight reads the spell, and Rarity gets a look at it too. And instead of Twilight reading it aloud, it's Rarity who reads it aloud when she gets to look at the book, and she's the one that accidentally switches the cutie marks. Now, it doesn't switch them right away, because otherwise Rarity's just going to notice Twilight with a different cutie mark, but I'll say it takes effect in the morning. So they notice nothing happens, and Rarity goes back home. So then Rarity goes out into Ponyville, where she notices that a bunch of her friends, of course, have their cutie marks all switched. I'm not going to say, like, which person is going to have their cutie marks switched, but just for the sake of time, I'm just going to say all Rarity's friends have their cutie marks switched. So this time, Rarity's the one who's going to try to help out her friends realize their destinies again. So Rarity goes out to find a way to help her friends retrieve their right cutie marks with the aid of Spike. So she goes around, switches everyone's cutie marks back to normal, and with the aid of Twilight, she finally figures out how to fix the spell and writes the final words into the journal. Magic comes out of the elements of harmony, which transports Rarity to that magical dimension that Celestia resides in. For some reason or another, I have no idea what that dimension is. So Rarity is whisked off to this dimension that Twilight was sent off to, where Celestia resides. And Celestia is actually surprised to see Rarity in this dimension. And she kind of questions, well, actually, I was kind of expecting Twilight to be in this dimension, but you solved the spell, and I congratulate you on doing a job well done. So Rarity figures, well, oh, sorry, was this meant for Twilight? I didn't mean to do all this. But Celestia rewards her for doing something not even the great Star Wars World the Bearded could finish. So she instead grants Rarity with the gift that she was planning for Twilight and makes her an alicorn. Yay! So now we receive tours So now we're at the coronation, and honestly, Rarity does not feel like she deserves being a princess. She felt she took Twilight's reward of doing all her job as being the princess's student, and for doing a job that was meant for her. But Twilight tells Rarity, well, you did everything that probably not even I could have done. And you did it without much help except for Spike just aiding you along the way. I only pushed you to finishing the spell, and you managed to finish it for me. So Twilight even feels that even Rarity was rightfully the one to become a princess. And Rarity decides to say, yeah, I guess you're right, and goes through the coronation, and then she becomes a princess. So of course that brings us up to speed with Season 4. Where would Rarity be at this point now? Well, let's start off with Princess Twilight Sparkle, or if we're doing this in the right title, Princess Rarity. So of course we'll start off with Princess Twilight Sparkle of Season 4, which I'll just call Princess Rarity. So we start off like we did back in the Season 4 opener, with Twilight learning how to fly. So of course Rarity tries to learn how to fly herself, even though she learned how to back in Season 1, although she's a bit more hesitant after having a near-death experience of falling who knows how high Cloudsdale was, and almost plummeting to the ground after her wings burned up in the Young Flowers competition. Oops. But that's not all. Business has boomed at the Carousel Boutique. So now most of Ponyville and even some of the Canterlot elite have come and traveled to Rarity's shop, and, well, she's a princess. Why not get a dress from the princess made for you? Why not? So of course Rarity's glad of all the attention and recognition for her business, but she's feeling a bit stressed. Well, because she has way too much on her hooves. She just can't handle the supply and demand that she's got way too many customers, and she feels that the title of princess is just way more than she can handle. Plus, she's gotta have a stained glass window, of course. So, Rarity even thinks that, well, I know Twilight feels that I deserve being a princess, but I don't know if I'm fully ready to be a princess yet. I mean, I just became one and an alicorn at that, so I'm not used to doing all this job. I mean, what am even I a princess of? So before all that, we get what happened per normal in the Season 4 opener. Magical vines from the Everfree Forest start surrounding all of Ponyville. That's not good. All of Ponyville and even all of Equestria are starting to be surrounded by these magical vines, and even the two princesses have up and vanished on the face of the planet. So now Rarity's the only princess, aside from Cadence, well, she never showed up, that is able on hoof to try and give commands to the guards. And of course, per normal like Twilight, Rarity does her best to give the guards orders, as her first title of princess, to try to find the princesses and keep the situation calm, especially with both the sun and the moon in the sky. Yeah, that's going to be mass hysteria across the town. So the episode's going to play per normal like it did before, as there's really not much of a difference that goes on, except for, well, Rarity being the princess and all. So Twilight still being like the de facto leader, aside from one of their friends being a princess now, takes charge that she feels that something's going amiss in the Everfree Forest, and of course they gotta take their elements of harmony to try and take everything down or whatever's causing the problem. So of course they go to the Everfree Forest with a bit of bantering from Discord, of course. And after that one near incident with the Crocodile, they all send Rarity, especially since Rarity feels that she can't do this as, well, too much work for her, even as a princess. But I feel that's her just being a drama queen. But then when she gets back to Ponyville, she of course comes across Discord, who taunts her a bit into going back into the Everfree Forest, which they didn't find the solution to all their problems. Which they find the solution being, well, the Tree of Harmony. So of course they found the Tree of Harmony thanks to Zecora giving the potion to Rarity, of course. But Rarity didn't know how to figure out how to use the potion at first, except Twilight kinda knows how to activate it, even though alicorn magic equals dark magic for some reason, but okay. Rarity then figures out the solution to the problems, and of course they know where the Tree of Harmony is, and they manage to locate it. So when Twilight manages to find the tree along with the rest of the gang, they didn't hear Rarity's cries, being, I think, the loudest of the main six, being trapped by those weird fly trap things, and they free her and save her. So then they get to the Tree of Harmony, and they all have the solution, of course, to use the elements of harmony to set her free. And of course, everything's all hunky-dory. So yeah, the princesses are saved, and, well, Rarity has managed to make her first impression as a princess. Well, so now everything's back to normal, and the episodes, of course, end. Now, if Season 4 is opening over, that leaves us a bit of a gap when it comes to these seasons. Now, I can't do every single episode of the season and analyze every single detail in this world, otherwise we'd be here forever. So, and plus, some of these episodes don't even center Rarity making that big of a difference, or they're just on a different character in general. So, we have a big gap between Castlemania and Bats. So therefore, we're just having a big gap and just skipping all those episodes in between and going off into the next episode, which would be, of course, Rarity's first episode since Season 2, Rarity Takes Manhattan. So in Rarity Takes Manhattan in the original canon, Rarity, of course, goes to Manhattan to compete in the fashion show, and where she receives her key for the friendship box, or the rainbow box, whatever the box is called. But in this scenario, I think it's going to be a bit different with her status being a princess. Instead of being in the competition, she's invited to judge the competition. And at first you think, okay, that's not bad. A fashion expert like me, I could probably judge the competition. But then she starts to feel like she's only obligated to be there to judge because she's a princess and not a fashion expert. When people start commenting, saying like, oh, we're going to have a princess judge the competition for us. This is going to be fun. And it's like, oh, I hope the princess likes what I wear. So that discourages Rarity a bit, thinking, oh, they don't like me for my fashion sense. They only like me because I'm a princess. Do they not know how good of a fashion designer I am? Now, keep in mind, I'm thinking like on the show terms, like how the show runners would probably run this episode if Rarity was a princess. So, what I think would happen, just for a bit of comedy, Rarity would disguise herself as another pony to enter the competition herself, while at the same time trying to judge the competition, like going back and forth between judging and entering the competition as a anonymous designer. Eventually she will be caught, but then she'll learn a lesson of being a prime example, even if she is, as a princess, to give great advice to the future fashion ponies of Equestria. And she still eventually shows them like her fashion tips and all that. So win-win for her. But does she earn her key in this episode? No, that's a little later. So after Rarity Takes Manhattan, we have another gap between Pinkie Apple Pie and Pinkie Pride. Both Pinkie episodes. Coincidence. Which leads us into the next two episodes that honestly don't have that big of a change, but it's worth looking through: Simple Ways and Philly Vanilli. These two episodes only have minor changes, but they feature Rarity in a more prominent role in both episodes, especially with one of them being a episode mostly focused on Rarity. So first, for Simple Ways, there's really not much how it's going to change, except even though when she runs the fashion event in Ponyville, she, of course, has a more bigger turnout and more credibility for being a princess, but she also uses her alicorns and princess status to, well, flirt with Trenderhoof, but nothing works, and it still happens with her becoming, well, a hillbilly. Which leads us then to Philly Vanilli. And Philly Vanilli, again, has less of a role since that's more of a Fluttershy episode, but since she's a singer, well, ponies will want to turn up and say, yeah, she's going to be singing. A princess singing in our town? What better yet to see her than sing? Right? So yeah, Rarity has just as a princess, makes a bigger turnout, but of course it's more of a Fluttershy episode, overcoming her shyness of performing on stage. But with that, it's going to make an even bigger turnout altogether. So yeah, these two episodes, don't really change much, but just very minor changes overall. So now we have a bunch of episodes to go through real quickly. So Twilight Time really doesn't change that much, except for that the classmates for the CMC don't bother her because, well, she's not a princess, and the Twilight Time just goes on per normal, and the CMC still learn from Twilight just through various tasks. And then we have Easy Being Breezy towards Maud Pie, which, of course, those string of episodes don't really change much at all. So, yeah, these next string of episodes, again, don't change as much, which leads us into For Whom the Sweetie Belle Toils. As for this episode, again, nothing really changes much, except since this is a Sweetie Belle episode. But Rarity, again, has another big supporting role in this episode, since she's making a dress for Sapphire Shores, if I remember her name correctly. So, yeah, her status, again, comes into play of saying, oh, I remember this fashion pony. She recently became a princess, right? Well, maybe if I get a dress from a princess, that will increase my sales and my concerts. Who knows? That's not as much as I could think would happen, and maybe with the nightmare sequence with that Sweetie Belle gets from Luna, it just shows maybe just a bit of a comedy that, well, since they are over the top, Rarity becomes dethroned as a princess, isolated, and just goes crazy, of course, then she made that mistake. Or she believes she made that mistake. But again, this is mostly a Sweetie Belle episode. Nothing really much changes except for the credibility of Rarity making a dress for Sapphire Shores. That's it. Moving on. And we have another string of episodes that we just skip with Leap of Faith and then Testing 1, 2, 3. They don't really have that much of an impact with Rarity being involved, so again, skipping. So then we come to Traja. Much like the other couple of episodes that have minor changes, this only has a minor change itself, since it doesn't make a major change to the overall plot. So instead of Twilight being celebrated for going to the trade show, it's Rarity, of course. And the order and arrangements of which of the main six gets paired with whom changes slightly. Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy stay the same, since they make up more of the majority of this episode. So it's more the other half. The one who stays with Rarity is Pinkie Pie, of course, to help sell Rarity's whatever she wants to sell, maybe like last year's fashion or some fabric to the trade show. But of course, Pinkie just shoos away customers and trying to sell her better stuff. Which leaves Twilight the one to be paired up with Applejack. Since, well, there are only two that haven't been paired up yet, so that Applejack's getting sloppy seconds. But I digress. So yeah, Twilight tries to sell off a book. Applejack tries to sell off like her, or trade some of her cookerware, if I remember correctly. And the episode just pretty much goes as it does in the regular canon. Rarity helps settle the dispute between Rainbow Dash and the pet taker. And with a little help from Twilight, like, well, she knows all these rules and regulations, everything's solved by the end. So there's not much of a big change other than Rarity does actual princess stuff by trying to dispute through this trade, which is still odd that Rainbow Dash tried to trade away Fluttershy to slavery. But again, not much change in this episode. Moving on. Next we come up to Inspiration Manifestation. And in this episode, of course, it's Rarity has a big role, but it's mostly a Spike episode. But I think it still has some major effects on this episode. Because Rarity was mostly driven by, well, inspiration to fashion up everything that happens in Ponyville, she felt the need to spruce it up a bit. And she goes a little crazy. But there's a little twist to it. Not only is she using alicorn magic, which is a little more stronger. No, not a little more. Is stronger than unicorn magic. It becomes a little bit hard to control and maintain. Though she goes a little bit crazy, just fixing everything with a fashion problem. Every left and right she goes. Much more than she did in the canon. And with a little bit of a tweak into her inspirations, like saying, you know, since I haven't been doing much as a princess, I'm going to try and solve everyone's problems with a fashion twist. So there's a bit of a more of an epidemic happening with her causing more mayhem, not only just in terms of fashion, but in terms of just trying to solve everything with being a princess, which could be a bit of a hint going into the season finale. But again, normally things happen as it did like in the canon. Spike stands up to Rarity, the spell is broken, but this time Rarity feels a little more guilty when she's told like what happened, and with a little pep up from Spike, she feels a little better. And the episode ends from there, but it has a little bit of a lingering effect, which I'll get to in the season finale. So, only episode left is Equestria Games. Equestria Games happens per normal. Nothing major happens that's different from the original canon, other than Rarity sits in the royal booth. That's it. Moving on to the finale. And now we finally come to Twilight's Kingdom, or in this case, Rarity's Kingdom, the Season 4 finale. This is going to be a bit of a difficult one to try and crack, since this is a episode that ties in a lot of things that happened throughout the season. And of course, they were already down in the journal, as we saw in Season 7, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So, of course, this time it's going to be Rarity muling over that she hasn't done much as a princess instead of Twilight. But she's feeling that she feels less than Twilight did in the canon, because not only does she feel she did less, but she caused a bit of problems as well. Not only did she try to enter a competition that she was also judging, but she also caused mayhem in Ponyville with the Inspiration Manifestation spell, and whenever she did princess things, she mostly had Spike or Twilight to help her out. So she felt she didn't do anything accomplishing on her own. But with the pep from the princesses, especially Celestia, since she's the one who made her the Alicorn, she tells her, well, you also have people and your friends to help you out. Not even princesses can do everything on their own. That's why we have our subjects and our friends to help us out when we need it. Which peps up Rarity a bit, but she still has doubts of being a princess. But of course, we all know what happens next. Tyrek is released from Tartarus, and he starts stealing magic from all across Equestria. So then we cut to the main six, reading everything that's happened in the journal, with a bit of discord thrown in of, yeah, maybe I can help you figure out how to open up the box. The answer lies in the journal you've all been keeping. So they do that, and they figure out, okay, some of the tokens we got from the people that helped us learn a valuable lesson could be the key to opening the box. So they get their keys, even Twilight gets her key, all save for Rarity. Now this is where I threw a wrench into my what if. Rarity and Twilight's keys are the big key factors in this episode, especially for this what if. How and when did they acquire their keys? My only explanation for Twilight's in any way through this season, for this what if, is that she got her key in Three's a Crowd when Discord tricked her and Cadence into going on that wild goose chase to try and cure an illness that he never had. But in the end, she learned about friendship and how all that happened, and she still got her key regardless. But Rarity still has her key. Doesn't have her key yet. So yeah. And as it goes regular to normal canon, Discord gets all the magic for Tyrek by betraying everyone. So Tyrek gets stronger, and all the princesses transfer the Alicorn magic into Rarity. But this time, Rarity doesn't keep it a secret from her friends, like Celestia told Twilight. Twilight is more reliant to obey her former mentor. Rarity is thinking more on her friends and thinking for their well-being, because he thinks, well, even if you think you know everything, Celestia, I know my friends and they will help me out. So Rarity pretty much tells her friends about the magic, so to be careful and look out for Tyrek. which does get them a bit more prepared. And while they still get captured by Discord and Tyrek, with Twilight there, she's able to, well, briefly get them out of that situation, but they still get their magic stolen. And they still manage to flee regardless. So there's a bit of a change that even though they get their magic stolen, with Twilight's aid, they're able to escape being trapped by Discord. But even in the end, Discord still gets his magic absorbed by Tyrek, and she feels, well, I still got magic, I don't need you anymore. And with a bit of a twist, like, you let them escape, now they know that I'm gonna come for their magic. And he pretty much takes his magic in his frustration. And Tyrek, of course, knows that, well, magic's taken from the princesses. I'm just going to send you the Tartarus like you did to me years ago. And he goes looking for Rarity. And everything happens from that point up into the canon. But during the fight, Tyrek has a bit of an upper hand against Rarity since, well, Rarity is not more proficient with her magic as Twilight was. And Twilight knew a lot more spells to combat any foe in her way, when Rarity mostly used her magic for fashion and her business. So Tyrek has a much better upper hand. Jesus, I couldn't talk right there. On the fight. So when Tyrek has her pinned and tries to take the magic, Rarity makes a proposal, a generous proposal. She promises to give Tyrek all the Alicorn magic in exchange for not harming any of her friends. Tyrek's wondering, well, why should I? And Rarity's like, you've got all the magic in all of Equestria, so if you take my magic, what's left? What's left to take? You have no use of taking my friends, so just let us go free and you have all the magic you need. You don't need us anymore. So Tyrek thinks for a second, like, very well, I'll let you and your friends go free. And he even has Discord like in a little bauble, like a necklace for this situation. And even already thinks he may have done those things, bad things, but he at least deserves a second chance. And let Discord go. So, of course, like before, Tyrek is hesitant, like, even after all he's done, you still want him to go free. Rarity agrees and say, just let him go, and Tyrek lets him go. And Tyrek gets all the Alicorn magic. So, through her generous act of giving away the Alicorn magic in exchange for her friend's safety, Discord rewards her the necklace, which also gives her the rainbow eyes, and Rarity gets her key. So they get the rainbow magic, they defeat Tyrek, seal him away, and the box makes a castle. But instead of the look of Twilight's cutie mark, it looks more blue with the 3 diamonds. And Rarity now has the castle instead. And Celestia proclaims Rarity as the Princess of Generosity. And thus we end the season there. And there we go. What would happen if Rarity became a princess? I know I could have done more, like season 5 onwards, but I don't know if I wanted to go any further. I'm going to let you guys decide if I should continue with that. And besides, I got 3 other more what if videos to go through. But yeah, I know I may have stumbled on a few things here and there, but that's what happens when you quickly edit this and, well, do this mostly unscripted. But I hope I did everything I could to please you guys and get discussion going. But I want to hear from you guys. What do you think could have happened if Rarity became a princess? Were there episodes I skipped that definitely needed more attention? Were there details I missed up or failed to expand upon? Let me know in the comments below. And for all my Tumblr viewers, let me know through the replies and reblogs. I'm feel to hear more discussion from you guys. And that's it for this video. If you liked it, please leave a comment in the comment section down below. So, until next time, everyone, this has been your Mid-East. So, I'll catch you guys later, and take care.